What makes a mystery so fascinating? Every now and then, something arises that blurs the line between what's real and what's fantasy, breaking down the barriers between fact and fiction. It is then that we realize that the real world is far stranger than we could have possibly imagined, and that mysteries exist that warrant a closer look. I'm Brendan Rogers, and this is Mysteries from the Inn. Ever since mankind first learned of its own mortality, we've all known that we're born to die. But what then? For thousands of years, we've longed to know what's on the other side of the veil. Sometimes, when a loved one passes away, they can leave us needing a sense of closure and answers to questions that we never got to ask. Now, for thousands of years, we have been searching for any possible way to get the answers that we need to move on after the death of a loved one. The ancient Greeks called their method the oracles of the dead, or psychomantium. Dr. Rebecca Mers has built her own psychomantium at her Mind Spa in Sarasota, Florida.
So the modern day psychomantium was developed up by Dr. Raymond Moody, who he did the original research on near-death experiences. So during a near-death experience, people were reporting contact with deceased loved ones. And when they came back, they felt like they no longer were grieving. So he was wondering how he could elicit that same result without the near-death part, of course. And he found in ancient Greek literature that there was a description of an oracle of the dead called psychomantia, which means deriving information from the dead, conjuring the dead. So basically, that involved an underground kind of temple where someone would go, kind of like a pilgrimage, spend some time in a darkened environment, be led down hallways, down passageways, very dimly lit, and end up in a room with a cauldron with, we're assuming, water in it, so a reflective surface. And from that, the reports said that apparitions of the dead would come out of the water and answer questions. So that's how Dr. Moody developed the process that we now know as psychomantium, using a mirror instead.
So my intention going into the psychomantium was to make contact with my brother. My brother passed away about 3 years ago. He was young, he was only 48, and we didn't really know what the cause of his death was. He was just found passed in his home, on his couch. And so one of my desires or my intentions of making contact with him was to understand maybe what had happened or if there was any information. Plus I just wanted some closure and a chance to tell him I missed him, and see if I could contact him or if he was able to contact me. So that was the intention of going in.
After some mental preparation with a facilitator, a grieving relative is ready to enter the psychomantium chamber. While sitting in the dimly lit environment of the psychomantium, gazing into a mirror, many people have experiences ranging from seeing, smelling, hearing, or feeling the presence of a deceased loved one. this experience can help to heal the feelings of loss and grief and leave a sense of closure.
I think that a lot of times an environment creates the potential for something to happen that takes you outside of something that you're familiar with. I think that on some level that what happened in the psychomantium could have easily happened in my bedroom at home. But because I had somebody else there was a process, there was an intention, there's a therapist who's holding that space and that intention with me. I am deliberately going into an environment to do something. And so there's an energy that happens in that intention.
Sometimes people feel being hugged, a sense of presence in the room. Sometimes they smell something that they associated to the deceased. Sometimes people see things in the mirror, see things in the room, hear things in their mind, like have a dialogue with the deceased, hear things externally. Sometimes they just have a shift of perspective about their relationship with the deceased or other issues. Sometimes they feel like they have messages, but it's not in words, it's ineffable.
So I think just the environment, knowing that it is a sacred space, there have been prayers done in there, there's been an intention setting in there, and there's two people genuinely trying to have that happen for you. So I think it's just an environment, just like anything, you know. You could take the day off of work and hang out at your house, or you could take the day off of work and go to the beach. You've had the day off, but one environment brings you a different experience than the other. And that's how I would relate it to the psychomantium.
Is it possible that these reflective surfaces are giving us glimpses into another world? Seeing visions in mirrors, crystal balls, and other reflective surfaces certainly isn't a new concept. It's a theme that's been commonly used in literature, pop culture, even home decor. But the real question is, what is it that we're actually seeing? Are we really communicating with the spirits of our deceased loved ones? Or is all of this just smoke and mirrors? Many people believe that visiting with a medium allows them to interact firsthand with their loved ones on the other side. It's said that mental and physical mediums use their skills and tools to act as a bridge connecting our world with the next one. So, is it possible then that getting the guidance that we need from our lost loved ones could be as simple as sitting down with a medium and asking for it?
When it comes to being given gifts of spirit, I appear to have gotten a lot of them. I didn't ask for them, they just were given to me. I didn't earn them. I am able to communicate with people who are on the spirit side. I can see them, I can hear them. I'm also able to, my children hated this, I can get telepathy and know what people are thinking, which is kind of embarrassing sometimes to answer a question before someone's asked me, but it sounds just like I've heard them. Seeing future is also a little bit tricky. People think time is linear, but it is not. Time is all in the now. So it just depends on where on the road you are. So people that do what I do can often see what's coming in your future. It comes in many different ways. I haven't even begun to find out all the different nuances of what Spirit has given me. And it's not always a gift, it's sometimes a burden, but I appreciate it and I feel humbled to be able to use this to help people.
During a session, a psychic medium will often confirm the information they receive from the other side with their client, bringing to light shockingly detailed information that they couldn't have possibly had prior knowledge of, verifying for their client that they are, in fact, in communication with a loved one on the other side.
The way I know that the messages are coming from the other side is I will sit down with a person I have never met. I never know if it's male, female, who they are. I don't know a thing about them. And well, it's not I, but Spirit through me will tell me things that are true to that person, and they want to know the answers, and somehow Spirit tells me. So I'll describe someone that has passed, perhaps as a father or a spouse or a child, and those spirits tell me things I can't possibly know. So that's how I know that I'm getting the message from them. And sometimes it's information the person sitting there doesn't even know themselves. So you have to write off telepathy in that regard, which does come into play. So someone might find out something they don't know, and they have to go check with a relative, and they come back and tell them and verify it. So I do know that these messages are coming from intelligent beings that just don't have their physical shell anymore.
Clients often leave their session with a psychic medium feeling as though they have experienced direct communication with their deceased loved ones, allowing them to feel a sense of healing and closure.
People come to psychic mediums for a myriad of reasons. Some people want to know the future, which psychic mediums can do if the person stays on the same road they're on and doesn't change. A big reason people come is if they've got a loved one who has crossed over into spirit and they want closure, they want comfort to know that their loved one isn't gone, that they continue to live. And as I believe it was Einstein said, you don't create nor destroy energy, it just changes form. And to me, that's what happens. You know, we don't disappear, we are still who we are. And people want to know that their people are still there and they love them and they're watching over them. It's a comforting thing.
The seance dates back to the early 1700s and is still in practice today. Seance facilitators are mediums who use a table to physically manifest communication with the spirits of those on the other side. Attendees at seances have reported seeing tables levitate, hearing strange noises in the room, and even the manifestation of objects.
Those on the other side we don't refer to as the dead. A lot of people say that spiritualists talk to the dead. I don't talk to anybody that's dead. I talk to the living on the other side in the next dimension, because they're just as alive as you and I. In some cases, they're more alive than you and I.
During a seance, the medium and a group of participants channel communication from the other side into the table by posing questions and allowing the energy of those on the other side to manifest and move the table itself.
When we're in a seance, we're working generally with a table. Not always. Sometimes it comes through, it just comes through. Because many times we'll ask the table a question, and the table will give us an answer, and then mediumistically we are given information to clarify that answer or to make sure that we understand what it's all about. Sometimes in seances, lights will flash. My spirit guide has come through in a shower of purple glitter sometimes. You just never know what's going to happen. In one seance, we got literally bumps and lumps in the walls and the ceiling and the floor. All around us, it was blub, 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 blub. We were on the second floor of a house. There was no way anybody could get to us to make those sounds. So it can come through in all kinds of ways.
When a spirit comes through, they'll bring evidence, something that only you and that person might know, a phrase, a stone, a flower, painting, something that is personally known to you. You do get your little poltergeists and your little low-level spirits that like to play tricks, and that can happen. That's why you kind of train to kind of learn to filter that out. You just, even as, I don't take everything as face value, even to this day. At seances, I've been at different seances and everything, and I do question, and that's one of the biggest things that you need to question. The person that's coming to you needs to question. They may not be able to understand what's going on, or even the evidence that is brought through at that moment. But sooner or later they either do, or it wasn't them, so that's beside the point.
The trumpet is a cone made of aluminum. It's generally about this long, small end, large end. And what used to happen in trumpet seances was that trumpet would take off and fly through the air, literally fly through the air. And it would come to someone in the seance, a sitter in a chair, a sitter around the table. The large end would point at them, and they would get a message through the trumpet. It would sound tinny, like Jimmy Durante singing Westminster Cathedral, if you will, and that message would come through. Sometimes objects would actually materialize and roll out of the trumpet. At Casadega, we had a young man whose father had been killed in a car accident, and the body had been cremated, and the mother wanted the wedding ring, and out of the trumpet at a seance rolled the wedding ring. Again, the word closure comes to mind for communicating with those on the other side, because you're not sure. Most people are not spiritualists. We have a certain knowledge, we have a certain insight into what happens on the other side. And even we miss people in a physical way. So when you get in touch with people that are on the other side and they confirm for you what you think, and they confirm it, and they tell you this is what we're doing, this is how we're seeing you, we're trying to protect you, we're trying to help you, we're around you, we still love you, we still know you. When they tell you things like that, that gives people a closure that says they're okay. I don't really need to worry about them. Also, people from the other side will come through often and say, stop doing the guilt. You did everything you could to help me pass over in a peaceful way, and you did, and I'm grateful. Don't carry the guilt, because the guilt will destroy you. They give us messages of hope. They give us messages of love. They know that they are around us. They want us to know that they're here. They want us to know that there is no death. There's simply a change.
If you want to talk to your friend who lives across the country, well, it's as easy as just picking up a telephone and asking to speak to them. Is it possible that it's just as easy to speak to our friends who exist on the other side? Perhaps mediums are just our phone line to the next world. And if we do use mediums to connect to their side, is it possible then that they are making efforts to call us from their end? Have you ever felt as though there was someone else in your house, even though you knew for sure that you were alone? Maybe you heard a knock, or footsteps, or maybe you just saw something out of the corner of your eye. Now, if you're like most people, you probably pass this off as being just a figment of your overactive imagination. But what if it really were someone trying to reach out to you from the other side to give you a message? What if we really aren't the only inhabitants of our homes?
I believe a haunting is defined as maybe a different energy, or if maybe even a different plane. When we die, energy does leave us, and where that energy goes is questioned. And I truly believe that that energy, which could be our soul, which really in honesty could also be our aura, can stay around us instead of passing over to, heaven or after death, or whatever you want to call it. I believe that they have a choice to stay with us, and I believe that that's what a haunting is. That they're going to stay here with us for their own personal reasons, and that reason could be fear of judgment, misunderstanding, a lot of reasons that people just are afraid to make that Passover, so they decide to stay on the same realm that we're in. And are these people passed over? I truly believe that they are. We've really never gotten definitive 100% proof that we are talking to ghosts, but I truly believe that we are.
I really believe the reason why hauntings occur, both on property, in buildings, and even including particular personal objects, when we cross over, I think that every aspect of who we are in our mind and in our spirit, we carry over with us, including our phobias, and even in some practices of communication through the spirit box, some of our dementia, some of the things that happen to us psychologically, we carry over to the other side. If there's an attachment in one aspect or another regards to a home, I think it's where the comfortability lies. Home is where the heart is, home is where the spirit is, I think. And a lot of these different spirits return here.
Along with audible sounds such as knocks, paranormal researchers are perfecting a method of communication from the other side known as electronic voice phenomenon, or EVPs. EVPs are sounds that have been recorded, either unintentionally or by request, that are believed to be voices from the spirit world.
When I first started trying to obtain EVPs, I used a reel-to-reel, which is magnetic tapes, and as time has gone by, technology's gotten better, and right now I use a digital voice recorder. Nobody knows how EVPs work. There's a lot of speculation that EVPs are nothing more than us psychically impressing our thoughts onto these devices. Another theory is that we're picking up random radio waves. And I disagree with that just because of the fact of we ask direct questions, and a lot of times we get direct answers back. We're not getting radio chatter, we're not getting DJs, we're not getting music. We are getting disembodied voices that seem to interject into our conversations. If that's not paranormal, I don't know what is. And the EVP has been around since the recording devices have been made back in the early 1900s.
If you exhaust every other possibility, whatever remains, however improbable, is probably paranormal. And you have to go through that process of elimination. You have to look at all the different contaminant factors that are involved with it, the people that are investigating with you, the elements surrounding you, the investigators that may be taking a break at the time, that could be talking outside, that could be picked up by audio or videography. You have to constantly look at every factor and every part of your surrounding while you're doing that investigating. What makes that particular hardcore evidence is being able to explain everything that was going on along with it, eliminate everything else, and when people ask you those particular questions about your evidence, you're already prepared for the answers.
To most of us, the empty space between radio stations is just annoying noise. But to some researchers, the empty radio frequencies are hiding an extraordinary secret. They believe that a properly modified radio, called a spirit box, can offer a direct means of communication for those on the other side who wish to speak to us, their loved ones who are still living.
I had the honor and privilege of serving in our armed forces in the United States Air Force for 6 years as a Russian linguist. And the work in which I did allowed me to work specifically on harnessing my abilities as far as audio was concerned. And I can't go into further detail than that as far as the military, but I can tell you that it's really translated into the paranormal field with my work in regards to electronic voice phenomena and some of my most recent work with the spirit boxes, ghost boxes, and frank boxes. And these are very cutting edge, next level communication, real-time communication that it's important for this field. And as I continue on, I think it helps me learn more about the ways that they communicate and whether or not we're getting the actual data back from them. Well, it helps. You heard it too? Thanks, man. Yeah. Can you say the name of this building then? What is the name of this building again, to repeat that over and over? Spirit Box came into my research probably about 3 years ago with one of my team members utilizing it, and I was very curious about it because some of what was going on seemed extremely fascinating, and I wanted to delve more into it. This was something that was new to the paranormal community as far as real-time communication. Some of the recorders they were using was considered real-time in the sense that they knew that there were captures being done on the recorders, but they had to do playback. It wasn't an exact science yet. These devices that they're coming out with now, and a lot of them were just makeshift spirit boxes from radio receivers, standard radio receivers. And as a radio receiver scans from the lowest frequency to the highest frequency, it loops back around again, but it never stops on a strong signal. It doesn't seek out as you would scan on your radio in your car. It just continues to scan along. Now there's a premise behind the spirit box, and how it works is there's two, as you would visualize, two trains running on two different tracks. Train one is the actual frequencies that are being picked up. Now it's considered or thought that the spirits are precognizant and know what is coming up on these particular frequencies and are able to respond to questions with monosyllabic or two-syllable responses. Yes, no, maybe, things of that sort. The second one, which is the one I focus on most, the second train, is the white noise that transfers through all of the different frequencies. And when you have responses of the same voice over 6, 7, 12, even 15 frequencies along the way, that helps to validate that that is actual contact with the other side.
It seems that we aren't the only ones who are trying to reach out. But what are those on the other side trying to tell us? Could they be trying to warn us of things to come? Or do they offer comfort or even hope? Or perhaps they just want us to know that all of this is not the end of our journey. It would seem that this is one mystery that we will never fully understand. But as researchers continue to push forward, they hold out the hope that with each new discovery, we will come closer to learning the truth behind the voices and the sightings and what they're about, where they come from, and ultimately, what they're trying to tell us.
Pretty much everything at this point in time is a pseudoscience. It's not an exact science. We lean towards belief in what it is that we're doing. But at the same argument, so much of what we've known in the past as being science, such as the Earth being flat, was eventually proved not to be true. That we were the center of the universe. At one point in time, science said that was the fact. Turned out not to be true. So we're hoping in the aspect of this field, as we proceed forward, that we're able to find some of the scientific barriers that have been put in place able to be broken through with what we do as far as research is concerned. A lot of the science out there tells us it's impossible for us to do what we do with full spectrum. It's impossible for us to do what we do with the spirit boxes and with the electronic video recorders. We are looking to be able to prove them wrong. In a sense, we'll be proving this pseudoscience to actually be a science. But science requires validity and consistency. Most of the scientists out there will talk about having a lab environment in which to do what we do. We've not reached that point in time yet. We are still in our infancy as far as this field is concerned. We still don't know what it is we're communicating with. This is one of the things that make this still a pseudoscience. Do we know we're communicating with the dead, or do we hope we are? If you talk to somebody perhaps from a strong religious background, will say that everything we're speaking to is demonic trying to manipulate us. You speak to other people in this community from the ufology side who'll say that you're probably speaking to an alien who actually accesses your mind and gives you the answers that you're looking for. You speak to somebody else from ideology who will say that it's probably multidimensional, that you're speaking to something or someone that never even existed on this planet. There are too many different ways to look at this of what we're communicating with, but we have to start with the hope that what we're communicating with is our loved ones.
What does make a mystery so fascinating? Is it the thought that there is more to this world than we can ever see, hear, and touch? Or is it how, after every possibility has been exhausted, we're still plagued by the same burning questions, how and why? It seems we may never have the answers to all of life's mysteries, but it is in our nature to keep searching. I'm Brendan Rogers, and join us next time for more Mysteries from the Inn.